Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 8 of my World War One videos. Uh, and I'll continue off from where I left off last video. If you haven't seen it, you might want to go back. If you haven't seen any of the other videos, you actually might want to start at the very beginning. Part 1. But yeah. So we had just talked about the only, well, what a lot of historians consider the only real naval battle of World War One, and it was disputed on who actually won, because the Germans say they won, the British say they won. It's kind of hard to determine who really won. uh, so during this time, uh, a country's military strength was not determined by it was not determined by the number of battleships or the number of ships in general it had. It was determined by the number of dreadnoughts, which are the largest ship at the time. These things, at first, originally it was battleships that you wanted. Now it was dreadnoughts, which were pretty much huge, pretty much island-destroying ships. Um, and as I discussed earlier, the reason that England entered the war was because that Germany invaded Belgium to go to attack France. It was also because they were already a little bit angry because Germany was building up its navy, and that kind of threatened uh, England's ego a bit. Sorry. So now that we covered the navy, let's move on to the Brussels offensive. Sorry if I'm going to be looking through papers a little bit. Where was it? Sheeping plan. I'm just going to pause the video for a second, and I'll be back in a few seconds. So, I finally found the part in my notes that I needed. Brusilov offensive was pretty much Russia's major, pretty much major victory in this war at the time, because it didn't really accomplish much else other than distract Germany for us. Well, I mean, them simply being there actually pretty much caused the war. But let's move on. Their pretty much what they did to basically get all their respect back, or most of it at least. They pretty much improved. They got the gears turning a bit more than before, and they pretty much got artillery and pretty much everything to actually do something against the Germans. And they managed to get some major victories over the Austrians, capturing Galicia, Bukovina, and they were also holding their own in Transcaucasia and Turkey. Well, against Turkey. But this is about the time where the Arabs start to revolt due to Sir Lawrence, I believe, Sir Lawrence of Arabia. Yeah, Lawrence of Arabia. He basically had been in Arabia during the whole thing, and he convinced the Arabs to revolt against the Turks, which did pretty much kick the Ottoman Empire out of the war for that time. So, next on the list is 1917, the Zimmerman telegram. I know that this is gonna be like horrible, but I'm gonna change the settings real quick, and I'll be right back, and I'll show you what the Zimmerman telegram is. Okay, apparently I don't know my recording software too well because you can't change the settings mid-video. Whoops! So the Zimmerman telegram was this. When you take a look at the untranslated version, it would give you a headache trying to decode that whole thing. And somebody did have to decode it. And let's put some background into it. At this time, Germany was about to defeat France, Russia, and England. They were all on the brink of destruction. But stupidly, they sent a message to Mexico saying, "Distract the Americans for us, okay?" Essentially. And you could take whatever land you conquer. So, but during the war, the German telegraph lines, which were laid onto the ocean, were cut. That way, they wouldn't have communications outside of Germany. So, instead of not sending the message at all, instead of using their own lines, they hacked into the American lines and sent the message through American lines down to Mexico. And, you would find it odd that the British were the ones who intercepted the message. The British, tapping in on American telegraph wires while we're supplying them with weapons and we're already a little bit mad at the Germans. Yeah, we were kind of a wild card at that time, though. So the Germans were sending a message saying, yeah, we want Mexico, we want to make an alliance. So in this little place called Room 40, they deciphered the message. But they were like, should we tell America about this? Or should we just sweep it under the rug because we were pretty much wiretapping America and we don't want to get them angry at us and then go join the Germans? So they pretty much made the whole event look like Germans were idiots and sent an undecoded message through like Britain. And so we're like, hey, we got this message, and they didn't tell America how, and they basically, so America, and also at this time, instead of they were literally about to win the war. Germany, instead of just waiting them out, Germany wanted to put the final nail in the coffin. And too soon, actually, because they started to do unrestricted submarine warfare again, which kind of violated the agreement they had with the Americans. So with that, and them saying, and the Germans saying to Mexico, go destroy the Americans and distract them for us, they basically messed the whole thing up. And at the time, the president, his entire campaign slogan was, he kept us out of the war. And now he has no choice but to put us into a war. And the main general for the American soldiers was General John Pershing. And the American soldiers were known by a couple names. They were known as Doughboys and the Yankees. And soldiers from the South didn't really like being called Yankees and being associated with the North. Because remember, the Civil War was still a lot fresher in people's mind then, and a lot of hostilities were actually still there. There are still some hostilities today, but there were more back then. the more popular name for the Americans were the Doughboys. Also at this time, Russia was on shaky ground. They basically had a revolution in February. So the Tsar, pretty much the emperor or Caesar of Russia, had to abdicate. And that basically ended the Romanov dynasty in Russia. That then caused a new type of government to pop up, a provincial government. And there was then another revolution. Not a shock. In October. This time with V.I. Lenin and Bolsheviks. That kind of... and with them ruling now, still in the provincial government, they basically made the dumbest treaty ever. They gave up pretty much whatever Balkan colonies they had, a bunch of land in Denmark and Poland, and pretty much agreed to stop attacking entirely. But the Germans kept attacking, so that still kind of made the Russians kind of angry. And America still basically not quite deploying men yet. At this time, the French were beginning to do mutinies, not listening to their commanders. Ah, vive la French. So, now America actually steps into the war, and the Meuse-Argonne offensive. And a couple other battles later, Germany collapses. Oh, all it took was America stepping in. Not really. America was pretty much a third, second, maybe, probably not, first-rate power at this time. All we did was think of it as a piece of furniture just about to fall over. America is that one little push it takes to keep it from falling over and puts it back into its normal position. Or that one little push that takes it to make it fall in the other direction. In this case, instead of falling and destroying the Allies, it falls and destroys Germany. I mean, although we weren't a strong military power, we were a bunch of fresh troops, ready for war. And yeah, that pretty much stopped. And pretty much when American soldiers went into the trenches, we started winning a couple more battles because they had fresh soldiers now and fresh new supplies. So the Allies then actually won. So there was also a mutiny in the German Navy, and they had their own abdication of the Tsar. There was also, during Christmas, I believe during one of the years of the war, there was no firing. There was an unsaid truce. Nobody decided to go shoot or do anything. And everybody was singing Christmas carols, and then they all stopped for a second and heard the Germans singing Christmas carols. So then some guys then decided to pop up their heads above no man's land and start walking out there. There were no machine guns. They then just walked into the German trenches and shared some brandy and some rum, and eventually a soccer game broke out in no man's land. And then the generals had to be party poopers and say, "You can't, no, just no. Go back to your spots. You guys go back to your side. We'll celebrate Christmas on this side. Okay, we'll do it the German way." and the Allies did tell their guys to do this as well. Thank you, and enjoy.